And today we
Hi,
have Blake Clyde with us. Blake, you there?
hi. I am here.
Hello. Tell us about what you're running for, what district, and give us a little insight to where you live.
So I live in the Des Moines metro area. I live in the East Village. My district is Iowa House District 33, and it kind of represents everything east of the river, from the East Village all the way over into Union Park and as north as Highland Park. So it's a pretty diverse area with lots of different people. It's pretty urban. There's also some suburban feel. There's lots of different ethnicities and religions and all kinds of different perspectives in this district. So I think that it's a really interesting district to represent, and I'm excited to listen to all these voices to carry those with me to the Iowa Capitol if I get lucky enough to be elected.
Perfect. So your district houses the Des Moines Ray Gun store.
It does.
That's fantastic. We love Ray Gun so much.
I love Ray Gun. I'm probably there a little bit more than I probably should be as far as my wallet is concerned. But
Yeah, yeah. What inspired you to run for office?
so I saw that my representative, Ruth Ann Gaines, was retiring at the end of this current session. And I spent some time thinking about what I'd like to see in a representative to replace her. And I really wanted someone who, kind of like Representative Gaines, had a really community focused approach to looking at the issues that our community is facing, whether it's housing or education or the cost of living. I think community centered solutions are going to be the way out of this. And my background in nonprofits, specifically working with kids' education and immigrant safety and healthcare, and now in arts and culture, I think that I have a wide breadth of experience when it comes to looking at these types of issues that are affecting our communities, and I'm ready to do the work to represent them at the Iowa Capitol.
Perfect. Do you have a primary? You do have a primary. You
I
have a
do.
primary. Is it two people in the primary or are there more?
So, as of right now, there are two that have declared. I believe there's going to be one more that jumps in a little bit later, but right now there's just two of us.
Okay. What do you think makes you different from other Democratic candidates or even your primary opponents?
So for me, as I kind of touched on a little bit there, my experience kind of leans toward community and how we can lift each other up by working together. I think that background in not only nonprofits, but also my background growing up in the rural Mississippi Delta, where I grew up without a ton of resources. My education started with Head Start. I was able to go to the doctor thanks to CHIP, and I was able to go to public university thanks to a music scholarship. So I understand what it's like to grow up not having a ton of resources, like a lot of folks in this district. And so I think that I not only have the experience to deal with these issues, but also the professional experience to know how those issues all intersect and what we can do at the state level to lift up everybody in this community.
Great. Um, do you have a favorite podcaster, political TikToker, kind of anything in that lane that you'd like to share? Selfish reasons. We're
You
always
know,
looking for new ones.
so, honestly, and this is kind of funny a little bit, but I love the ladies of the U. I'm going to be 100% honest.
Okay.
That's kind of mostly the political podcast that I'm listening to these days. I spend a lot of time watching The View. I also am a really big fan of pretty much all of the podcasts that NPR does, and that's everything from Up First to the Morning Edition to even their science podcast that they do. Pretty cool. And so I'm also a really big fan of what's going on at the New York Times with their headlines and daily podcasts, which I think are really good ways to get kind of caught up on the news in the morning without having to exert a lot of energy to do that. So it's kind of wide and varied, but yeah.
That's a good answer. I have fairly severe ADHD. So my attention span is about this big. So I go for short, kind of to the point things that get me information that I need quickly, or people who talk a lot of smack in a good way.
And I think Yeah, and I think that's probably why I like the View so much because you get both of those. I mean,
That's
you get
true.
Alyssa Farr Griffin that's giving you the policy breakdown, and you got Joy Behar over in the corner just laying one liner after one liner. So it's a good time.
That's a valid choice, and I would have never thought to put that on the roster. So good job. Excuse me. So, one thing we ask really often is whether a candidate plans to take corporate PAC money. Um, we think it's important and we hear that question just as much as we ask that question. And I always like to give a little bit of a description because especially people who are very new to politics don't know the difference between PAC money or that there are different types of PAC money. So when we say corporate PAC money, we're talking about FedEx, Walmart, Exxon Mobil. We are not talking about advocacy PACs. We want take the advocacy PAC money. If they offer it, take it. Campaigns are expensive. But yeah, corporate specific PACs.
So no, I don't plan on taking any money from corporate PACs. I think that that goes against specifically my philosophy on representing the people in this community. I think that it would be very difficult for me to be an effective legislator if people were questioning where my allegiances lied when it comes to things that I'm advocating for or things that I'm voting for in the Iowa House. And I don't want any type of confusion when it comes to what I believe in and what I stand in and why. So I will not be taking any corporate back money because I want it to be clear that the only people that I'm representing and the only people that I speak for are the voters who are in Iowa District 33.
Good answer. Um, oh, Layla, are you
I got
there? All right, Layla, you're up.
So let's say you get elected. If we treat the Iowa House, the legislature, as if it's college and you pick a major and then you pick a minor, what are the categories that you would major in and then minor in?
So are we talking like policy wise or are we talking about like committee wise?
I guess we could technically both. Just like for the viewer who doesn't understand what committees are, just like sanctions of topics of the government. So,
Yeah.
for
So
example,
for me personally, my biggest issues are going to be housing, just because that is a huge issue in my district. As I've been speaking to voters on the doors, that is a top issue that I speak to people about. Rent is going up much faster than the cost of living, than our wages are going up. Property taxes are exploding because in the last 10 years that Republicans have been in office, they've refused to do anything about it and actually limited the ability of our local governments to get the services that our communities need. And I think that corporate developers specifically have much too much free reign when it comes to buying up housing stock, specifically in my district, and then jacking up prices for everyone else around it. And so that's going to be something that I am very focused on in the Iowa House. Another issue that I'm going to be focused on is public education because Des Moines Public Schools is hurting right now. They are losing money to the voucher scheme that's going on at the state level right now. And I think it's absolutely important that we do everything we can to make sure that our teachers and our staff and our students are being treated as well as we treat the corporations that are getting all of this money state government process.
yeah, absolutely. That's a good answer. I always like to say that I would, major in healthcare and minor in infrastructure. What are some ways that you're active in your community?
So I spend a lot of time in my community in the arts and culture area. I am the director of training for the Cloris Leachman Excellence in Theater Arts Awards here in Central Iowa. We see every single production of theater for all 11 theater companies, which usually comes out to around 50 productions per year. And we have 12 judges that go see all of those. So that keeps me pretty busy and pretty tapped into what's going on in the art scene here. Also, in my capacity as a fundraiser for the Des Moines Symphony, I spend a lot of time doing things in the community as far as music access and access to the arts goes. Also, I am very active in my church, Capitol Hill Lutheran, here in the East Village. We have a closed closet pantry program that I'm very involved in. And I'm also very involved because of my professional background in some of the grant writing things that we do to kind of beef up the programs that we're able to offer to folks in our community.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good when candidates are active in their community. If you're not, why are you running? Now this is kind of a controversial question. It's one of the most important ones to us. Cats or dogs and why?
So I can't pick because I actually own a cat and a dog, and so it would be really difficult for me to pick. I love both of them equally, and I can't make that decision. Please don't make me.
That's okay. We won't force you into it.
We won't force it.
Okay. What are your top priorities? They cannot be healthcare, water quality, or education. Those are like givens.
So I'm going to go back to housing because once again, that is the biggest issue in my community here in specifically the East Village when it comes to rent. And then when you get out into Highland Park and Union Park, we start to look at more of housing stock being bought by people who don't have the best interest of the community at hand and the issue of property taxes. So I think that that's something that whoever represents Iowa District 33 is going to have to be speaking about and advocating for nearly all of their time because we see how that's affecting our community. We see the unhoused population going higher and higher. We see seniors being forced out of their homes because they can't afford to keep up with the property taxes, and Social Security isn't increasing fast enough to be able to keep up with those changes. And so there are a lot of things that we can do at the state level to make sure that people are safely housed.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think affordable housing gets talked about enough, or the housing issues. So I'm glad that you're talking about that. So I would assume that you're against the private school voucher program.
100%.
So I know there's a lot of discourse amongst Democrats running on whether the end goal is to end the program or to work with it. Where would you put yourself?
So I'm going to put myself with my constituents, and my constituents say that they want this program ended because they can see how it's affecting the quality of education in Des Moines public schools. So that program needs to end, and we need to fully fund public schools so that teachers, students, and staff have all of the resources that they need to get us back to number one in education in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could pass legislation on a petty grievance, what would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. So, in a previous job, I worked with specifically farm workers. And one of the biggest issues that we saw was people who are undocumented not having access to their wages, and there not being a way to get those wages to them because there's a lot of fear with how they interact with the state government when it comes to those types of complaints. And so I think that I would like to see more funding that goes towards organizations that help these undocumented folks, not necessarily through state programs, but maybe through some local nonprofits that are doing good work for these folks because there is just a huge disconnect in the services that they're able to receive, but the fear in applying for those right now. And so I think that we need to outsource a little bit of that with funding as opposed to just trying to keep that in house when there's so much fear and chaos going on in those communities.
Yeah, 100%. Mom, you're up.
Okay. What would you consider valid experience for somebody that's running for state legislature?
So I think that any experience is valid experience when it comes to running for the Iowa State Legislature. We're not running. I don't see my position or what I'm trying to be as a leader for people necessarily. What I'm trying to do is be a voice for the people in my community who feel like the state has left them behind in tons and tons of ways. And so I think that being a representative in the Iowa State House just means that you're a person that's tapped into your community, listening to the issues that your community has, and you're willing to accurately and forcefully, that's important, advocate for those issues at the state capitol.
Great answer. I like that you emphasized the forcefully. Um, because yeah, I think that's a pretty necessary qualification right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I
and
think
I
that
and
just to kind of go back to that, I think that what gets lost when we think about districts like the one that I'm in that we would consider a safe district in a lot of ways because Republicans don't even generally run here. But that can create a situation where people are a little bit disengaged. And getting the people in districts like District 33 engaged can be the difference between someone like Rob Sand winning at the state level and not winning at the state level. It can be the difference between Cindy Axney beating Zach Nunn and Zach Nunn winning. And so we need a person who is in this district who is willing to go out, talk to people, make sure they're registered to vote, and engage them so that we have the numbers that we need to enact real change in this state.
Yeah, absolutely. What keeps you going? I know this is a hard question because you kind of just hopped in, which is great. Um, but if you just even in your first week, you can see exactly how this all goes and how it works and
Yeah.
how fast paced it is and things like that. So,
Yeah.
what do you do to what keeps you going? What do you think will keep you going?
I spend a lot of time thinking about the stories that I hear from people when I'm talking at the doors and stories that I've carried with me from previous positions and things that I've done in the community. I think that for me personally, just hearing these stories of how people are struggling and how they don't have to be because there are things that the state can be doing if they cared enough to actually people deal with these concerns that they have that are really limiting their ability to succeed in the state of Iowa. And a lot of people are leaving our state because of that, which we don't want. So I think that just carrying those stories with me and keeping the people, the real people at the forefront of everything that I'm doing is not only kept me going for this past week, but that'll be what keeps me going for the duration of however long I'm in this race, in office, or anything.
Awesome. What is your hottest take?
Well, that's a good one. Um, I don't really think that I have like a controversial hot take in any way. I think that it's really silly that the state of Iowa hasn't legalized marijuana when 3 states surrounding us have done it. And we're just giving away all of that money for absolutely no reason when we could be using it to offer property tax relief, offer down payment assistance to first time home buyers, and doing all kinds of really cool things that states around us are doing. And as a result of that, are seeing their populations increase.
Mhm.
But we're just giving away that money for no reason. And so I just think that's really silly.
I think that's a really good answer. Um, which you're not the first to answer that question with that answer, um,
Nice.
in a very similar way. So that I think it's not surprising to us. Like we don't think that's a hot take, but also it is a hot take because not enough people talk about it. Um, what do you think your wokest take is?
Ooh, now that is I would say probably, I have to think about it.
We can circle back.
Yeah, let's circle back to that one. Give me some time to think about it.
Perfect. Okay, so what's something that you've learned about yourself through announcing your run and campaigning?
I think that I always knew that I really cared about people, but I think that's just been really amplified in the past week. And it's gotten to the point where I've even gotten emotional a couple of times just talking to people about how things are going in their life and how the state has failed them on so many different issues. And I think that just realizing that empathy can be a superpower in the last week has been really eye opening for me.
I love that. I'm going to use that someday. So we have two rapid fire questions. They're not very rapid fire at all. We just ask them quickly because we don't feel the need to discuss them, but we do
Mhm.
want to know where you stand on them. The first one is, are you pro-choice?
Absolutely.
Perfect. And then LGBTQ plus rights, trans rights, all the rights.
I am all the rights. As a Black gay man, I will forcefully fight to make sure that all of our marginalized communities are treated with respect and dignity and I will fight with my words any bully that comes down on these people.
Awesome. Very good. Let's see. We only actually have two questions left. We're blowing through these so fast. So why should your constituents vote for you?
I think that I bring a really interesting mix of um, how this district can be represented. I think I kind of touched on earlier that this is a really diverse district. From the East Village, which is really urban and really, really progressive, out into some of the northern parts of our district and eastern parts of our district that aren't as progressive, but are still reliably democratic. And then we speak about the issue of race, with this being one of the most diverse districts in the state of Iowa. And we speak about the issue of income, with this also being one of the most diversified as far as income levels goes districts in this area. So I think that all of this experience that I've had over my life, specifically when it comes to how I grew up, the work that I've done in nonprofits and the communities that I've served, and how I spend my time, my spare time, trying to do things to help the community, just kind of brings a really interesting mix for representing this community specifically.
Good. Okay. Do you have an answer for the wokest take yet?
I think that Marcus take, and I don't think it's woke, like obviously just as like a person just being who I am, but I do support reparations.
Okay. Very good. I mean, that's a new answer. We don't get that one often, so that's kind of awesome. Um, and yes, yes. So, final question. We want to know where your socials, your website, all of those things, and then tell us what your big ask is. What do you need from all of the people that watch this video?
So you can find me on social media at Lake Clyde for Iowa. My website is www.lakeclydeforiowa.com. And my big ask is that we just engage with this election. It's been 10 years of just down, down, down when it comes to Iowa, when it comes to our education, when it comes to our healthcare, when it comes to our cost of living, when it comes to our housing situations. Republicans have failed us over and over and over. And so the only way we're going to take this state back and get the change that we need is if we do it together. And so, regardless of whether you support me personally or not, I just want to make sure that everybody who believes the things that I believe get out to vote. That's my big ask, because that's how we're going to get change.
Perfect. I could not have said that any better. I think it varies per district what the big ask is and what each district needs. And I think the one thing that kind of when you're in what the the Democratic Party considers a safe blue district, there's not as much of a need for donations. You still need money. Everybody running for office needs money. No one does not need money. But when you have less of a chance of like a Republican counterpart running against you, it seems like that kind of takes some of the risk away with the nonstop fundraising that, candidates have to do to run for office. And I think that's really nice. Enjoy that part of it. Um,
I just think that I touched on this, and I just want to talk about it again,
yeah,
because I just think that these as we talk about these safe blue districts, we can't take them for granted.
no,
There are people in these districts who will vote, and there's a lot of people who believe the same things that we believe, but don't go out to vote because we're not engaging them.
yeah,
And as I said, that can be a huge difference in the U.S. congressional district race, for whoever our nominee is there. It can be a huge difference for whoever we have at the top of the ticket for governor, for secretary of state, for attorney general. These districts are the padding that we need to succeed statewide. And we need to treat them that way and make sure that the voters who are in these districts feel heard and they feel engaged enough to get out and vote.
Yeah.
absolutely. Perfect. Layla, do you have anything to add?
In terms of money, everybody needs money except for Republicans.
Yeah, no, for real.
Correct.
They got enough. Jeez. Um, cool. Is that Layla, you got anything? Was that it or you got more? Do you have
I
any
don't
extra
think
questions?
No, I don't have any extra questions. This was like the
Either.
most clear,
Yes.
like belt to ass interview I think we've
Yeah.
had.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
No, that is absolutely a compliment. We are talkers, so the fact that this went so quickly is amazing because traditionally candidates really like to talk a lot and for
Yeah.
long periods of
I'm
time.
a candidate.
And so do
When
we.
I'm
So,
the doors, the only thing that I'm asking is I'm introducing myself and saying what's important to you as we go into this next election. And that's what I'm asking everyone. And yes, we'll speak. I'll talk a lot. And I'll also
right?
sing and dance and do everything else. But the most important thing that I think a representative can do is listen, because that's what's going to give you what you need to make sure that people are properly taken care of at the state level.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. That is all we have for you. That's it. It was so quick.
Well, thank
Um,
you. Thank
thank
you.
thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. Obviously, we are in a completely different part of the state, so it's really fun for us to talk to people from other areas that are kind of
Yeah.
in the thick of what we are also experiencing across the board with the politics and things. And we actually, we live in a red district. And I think that, like you said, with, safe blue districts kind of being almost forgotten about, um, red districts are very similar in that they are completely forgotten about. And while you haven't had a Republican run in that district for quite some time, it's been the opposite here, where a Democrat has not
Mhm.
run in a long time. Um, so the party itself is like not winnable. They're kind of like,
Mhm.
good luck. And there's a lot of people in our home district that are like, why should we even try?
Mhm.
And I think that's where we've kind of lost the plot. It's supposed to be for everyone, not just one party, regardless of where you live, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's
All
a
of us
really,
are
really good
needed.
point. Awesome.
All of us are needed to work together. We got to do it together. That's the only way it's going to get done.
100%. All right. Blake Clyde for Iowa House District 33 on the socials, find the website, do all of the things. Blake, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. I'm going to go knock on some doors.
Yep. Bye.
Thank you.